So in this series we're going to be mostly dealing with Android app development. We'll also look into iOS and BlackBerry, but with iOS it's difficult to create an app if you aren't on a Mac, and you also need an Apple developer license, which I believe costs about $100. So we're going to focus on Android, and there's a few ways we can create apps, PhoneGap apps. The easiest way and the recommended way is to use PhoneGap build, which I'll show you right now. I think it's build.phonegap.com. Sorry. So this is the easiest way. You just sign up. You can create an app and just upload your HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and it'll spit back out files like an APK file for Android that you can install into your phone and use native features. But the old way was to actually use an IDE like Eclipse and use the Android plugin and download all the Android SDKs and just install all this crap on your computer. So it's not the way that I build PhoneGap apps. I would much rather prefer the build, but I think it's a good thing just to know how to do that. So I want to do that in this video. So what we want to do first is we want to grab the Android SDKs. So let's just search for Android SDK, and SDK stands for Software Development Kit, and this particular SDK comes bundled with Eclipse and the ADT plugin, which is basically an Android plugin. We have the SDK tools, the Android platform tools, in the latest version of the Android platform. So let's download this. Let's accept our terms. I think I'm on a 32-bit, but I'm not sure. Let me just check. What do I want? Properties. Yeah, I'm on a 32-bit system, and that's how you can check if you are as well. So I want to keep that checked. I'm going to click download, and it's going to be the ADT bundle, and that file is actually almost 500 megabytes, so it could take a few minutes. So I'm going to pause the video for 2 minutes and I'll be back. Alright, so the zip file is downloaded, so I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to actually create a new folder on my C drive, and I'm going to call it Android. And I'm going to put all these files in there. So now I'm going to open the SDK manager and see what's going on. Okay, I don't know why it won't open. Oh, there we go. So we have some tools. Android 4.3, which is the API 18. That's the latest version, and you can see that we do have the SDK platform installed. I also want the samples, and I want Google APIs. Let's see, sources for Android SDK. I'm going to get that, and then I want all the tools except these last two ones in italics. I think that's it. And you can choose older versions of Android if you want your app to work on those versions. Let's see, Google Analytics. Oh, yeah, we don't need any of this stuff. right now. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to click this install 5 packages, accept the license, and install. Depending on what you chose here, your download time may vary. Alright, so we're done downloading the SDK and the SDK tools. So now what I want to do is open up Eclipse, which is our IDE or text editor. And we have the ADT plugin, which is the Android plugin. So now it's going to access where we want our workspace. By default, it's in your users directory in a workspace folder. I'm just going to keep that for now. Alright, so we get to this start screen. I'm going to click no for this. Now before we do anything, we need to go to PhoneGap.com and we want to download PhoneGap. Now this command line stuff you can skip and just go right to PhoneGap 2.90 or whatever the latest version is. I'm going to save that package and I'm going to open that when it's done. Alright, so we have our PhoneGap package, and I'm going to go to my Android directory and I'm going to put that in there. I apologize, this is a virtual machine, so it's pretty slow. Alright, so we get the PhoneGap folder, and I'm actually going to load up a project in Eclipse. If we go into PhoneGap lib Android, we have this example, which is just a basic example project that we can use. So let's go back into, let's close this out, go back into Eclipse, and we want to go to File, New, and we want to go down to Other, and under the Android folder you want to choose Android project from existing code, and then we want to browse for that PhoneGap sample application. So that's in Computer, C drive, Android, PhoneGap, lib, Android, and then it's this example folder. So highlight that, click OK, click Finish, exception. Alright, that's not very important. So, and we want to click on this icon over here, which will bring out our application. You can see it's called example. It has a bunch of folders that are needed to run the program, but what we are concerned with is the assets folder, because that's where the www directory is with our actual web code. You can see we have index.html, we have JavaScript, CSS. So that's where our main application is, and this is just an example application. It's just a one-screen page, and I'll show you how we can look at that in the emulator. So first thing we need to do is choose a device for our emulator, and I believe we do that by just trying to run this. Let's right-click on this and go to Run As Android Application. Now it says we have no virtual devices, an AVD, which is an Android virtual device. So do you wish to add one? Yes. We don't want to use that. We can click on launch a new Android device, go to the manager, and let's create a new device. And I'm going to choose the Galaxy Nexus. So I'll just say Gal Nex. The memory, I believe, needs to be lower than this. I'm just going to give it 600 megabytes of memory. That looks good. The front camera can be emulated, or we could use our actual camera if you have one. But we're going to choose emulated, back camera, emulated. Internal storage, set to 100. You can also deal with SD cards, but we're not going to do that. Let's click OK. So now we have this device that we can use. Let's see. Alright, so let's get out of here and let's try this again and see if it shows up. So example, run as Android application. It's not there. Let's go to our manager, choose this, and let's click start. Okay, that looks good. Launch. So now this should launch the emulator with our example program. Okay, so this is our emulator, and when you turn it on for the first time it can take a while. Just check something real quick. Alright, so here's our sample app. It's not much, it's just an icon with, we can see here it says device is ready. Now let's take a look at the code for this. Get out of this, clear that off. I don't want any of that stuff. Alright, so let's go to, in our www folder, and go into our index.html, and we want to open with text editor. So we have a standard HTML document. We have a viewport. We're linking to a style sheet called index.css. Down here we have a div called app with a h1 tag. And then we have a div ID of device ready. And we also have two paragraphs with the class of event, and then we have listening and received. So the listening paragraph says connecting to device. The received class paragraph says device is ready. And then we're including our Cordova.js and our index.js. So in our index.js, excuse me, we have a variable called app, and this is an object. We are calling the initialize function here, which just calls the bind events function, which is right here. And what that's doing is it's creating an event listener, and this is you'll see this a lot. This is very familiar in PhoneGap applications because it sends out a listener so that we can tell if the device is ready or not. The first parameter is, the first parameter is the event, which is device ready. The second is the function you want to run when the device is ready. So in this case is on device ready, and that is right here. So when the device is ready, we're going to call this app.received_event device ready. And down here we can update the DOM on a received event. You can see here we have variable listing element and a variable of received element. And you can see the received element down here is set to display a block. The listening element, if the device is ready, is going to have a style of display none. So when the device is ready, listening element will not show anymore. So when the device is ready, it'll only show the received element, which if we go to the front page here of our app, it says device is ready. Okay. This actually isn't the way that I set up or I like to do PhoneGap programming. I don't really like this. I'll show you some easier techniques to do the same thing. And I honestly don't like working in Eclipse with this slow emulator. And even PhoneGap in the documentation, they don't recommend this way anymore either. They recommend to use build.phonegap.com, where all you need to do is create your web standard, your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and just input it into the PhoneGap build program, and then it'll spit out your APK files or your apps. So that's what we'll be doing next.